All right, Danielle. Well, here we are, it's week 13 of the W Hoops podcast. And last week when we talked, we had said that the Fever had a tough week ahead of them, but it really ended up being a lot tougher than we thought it would be.
Yep. It was a road trip out west and travel game every other day with plus travel. It was a tough stretch and then unfortunate to have two season-ending injuries in the last game against Phoenix.
Yeah, just from a results of the game perspective, they actually did what we hoped they would do. We thought, they got four games and they'd already played one of them against Dallas on a four-game road trip. They went 2-2 in the four-game road trip, which we thought would be a great accomplishment, and it was. So they stayed strong in the standings. Um, had a We can talk about each game maybe before we get into the injuries. So I thought the Sunday game against Seattle was a really good win, and the offense, they didn't score a lot of points, but I thought they played really well on offense.
Yeah, it was a kind of a slow start and back and forth for a while, but finally they were able to push it out and get a double-digit lead. And even with Kelsey Mitchell having a off shooting game, she was 3 for 16 from the floor, 0 for 8 from three, ended up with 9 points. But she had 5 assists, and you continue to see her growth as a passer. And um, again, it was where the role players are stepping up. You had a big game from Sophie. Ari contributed. Natasha Howard had a really good game.
Yeah, and I think probably the scoring was a little lower than normal because Kelsey had an off shooting night. But there was one point in the game I was traveling for business and didn't catch the whole game, but I watched the first half, and I think the announcer said at one point there were nine assists on nine made field goals in the first half, and I think like a couple possessions later, they got their 10th field goal. And it was on an assist. Ended the game with 27 assists on 32 made field goals, which is just great basketball, the kind of basketball we really enjoy. And I think any coach would love that kind of basketball. So that was a huge win and really guaranteed them at least a 2-2 record. Um, but then, they went to the team that seems to be their kryptonite after that and played LA and yeah, took a tough loss.
Yeah, LA has been really hitting their stride here. Now that they're getting healthy, they have Rakia back, they have Brink back. I think Brink just set some record for the fastest to X number of blocks. So she really helps them on the defensive end. Azare and Diarca are great offensive players, but just kind of average defenders. So Brink brings a little bit more on the defensive end. And then Azare Stevens was 5 for 5 from three in that game. So that's just brutal. And Indiana's bigs are a little bit more, they're skilled bigs, Howard and Boston, but it's tough for them to guard out on the three-point line.
Yeah, I mean, Azure, nobody had that on their bingo card. Her going
No.
for 5 for 5 from three. I mean, it's just a fluke game. I mean, but she's had a good season. She's been shooting well
Oh, yeah.
this year, at least every game I've seen her. Let me look. What are her season stats? I
I
haven't.
think she's doing career highs and shooting percentages and points and
Yeah,
everything. She's had a really good season.
she's
She's
50,
someone who,
40, 77
okay,
right now. So 50% from the field, 41% from three. I mean,
yeah.
that's,
Yeah. She's
I did
someone,
not
if
have that.
Indiana could pick her up next year in free agency, she would be a great get. Because she just is
Yeah.
very versatile and yeah, can stretch the floor. But yeah, basically everyone for LA had a great game. Hamby was good. Jackson has been on a tear recently. Plum had 25. So yeah, that's tough. And they only had 2 points from the bench, Indiana did in this game. So that's tough. I don't think Chloe Bibby has had a good game since they signed her to a rest of season contract. Her 7 day contract games were fantastic. And then I don't think we've seen much from her since then.
Yeah. I mean, Kelsey Mitchell had a good bounce back game after the
Yes.
tough shooting night at Seattle. Really great. 11 for 19 from the field, 7 for 12 from threes, 34 points. Howard had another good game.
Hmm.
17 points, 7 for 12 from the field. And I noticed Howard was 0 for 3 from three in the LA game. What's she doing taking three? She would have been 7 for 10 or 7 for 9 from the field.
Yeah.
Yeah, so just Natasha, we love you, but stop taking threes. It's not your
Right.
shot. Just like Stewie shouldn't take threes.
Yeah.
But yeah, Howard had a great 17.7 rebounds. Boston had a good game, 15 points, nine
Yeah.
rebounds. I mean, they
McDonald
just,
hit like three threes in the last 5 minutes to get it reasonably close, but it wasn't a particularly close game. And
yeah,
yeah, LA has just had their number this year.
they have. So yeah, not a lot. We kind of expected that loss,
Yeah.
but didn't really expect what happened on Thursday night against the Mercury.
Yeah, they just couldn't score. That's a game that it was a late game, so I only watched the first quarter of that and then caught up on highlights after that. But yeah, there was just no scoring. Phoenix got out to a hot start and really put them away pretty early.
And of course, really the big news, there's really not much to talk about from an Indiana Fever perspective about the game itself, except the injuries that happened.
Yeah.
Just really unfortunate
Yeah.
for Colson to have an ACL tear and for Airy to have a broken bone in her foot in the fourth quarter, evidently, and just bad news when you already have your starting point guard injured for much of the season.
Yeah, it's been a bad couple months for Indiana guards. Halliburton and
Yeah.
Caitlin and now Colson and McDonald. But yeah, it's unfortunate. They have really been kind of finding their groove. And you could really see it coming together how when Caitlin got back, they were going to have a really strong point guard rotation with the three of them.
Yeah. So now, if you look at the standings right now, so Indiana's what in fifth place or tied for fifth
Mhm.
with Las Vegas. Maybe they've got ESPN showing them
They
ahead of Las Vegas, so
they
they
do
have the
have the
tiebreaker.
tiebreaker on Vegas
So they're in
and
fifth
Seattle.
place. Yeah, one game over Seattle in the loss column, one
Yep.
game over Golden State in the loss column, and one game over Los Angeles in the loss column. So it's still a tight race for that
Very tight.
those last four playoff spots. The top four playoff spots seem to be locked.
Yeah.
Um, and so as long as we're on this topic, here's a thought. Should the Indiana Fever tank for the rest of the season given all the injuries?
That's tough. I think not probably. Last year they made the playoffs and were swept. So I think this year they kind of want to win at least one playoff round and kind of get that next step as a franchise to get closer to the finals. It feels this year like they probably aren't making the finals, but I think it's most likely that they're going to make a push for the playoffs. So,
Agree with you that I think they are. I think I would tank if I were them. I mean, the players and coaches are never going to tank. It's kind of a front office. So, like, how quickly do you bring back Caitlin Clark? That's how you tank this season, not anything else, probably, right? With losing Colson and McDonald, any substitute guard they pick up off waivers now, isn't going to be as good as McDonald. Maybe not even as good as Colson. I thought Colson was very solid. She wasn't spectacular, but she was solid. She was playing her role really well, and nobody. So that's going to be the decision, really. How quickly do you bring back Clark? In my mind, and if she's not healthy, why risk it this year? Why? You're only one game out of being in the lottery.
yeah.
And you look at the teams behind them right now. Las Vegas wants to be in it. They don't control their pick. Seattle seems to really, they just made a big trade, which we'll talk about in a moment. They're trying to make a push for the playoffs. Golden State had their best player get injured, but they seem to be fighting for a playoff spot. And the Sparks don't own their first round pick. They're definitely wanting to get in the playoffs. So really, the only team they have to fight for that fifth lottery position, I think, are the Valkyries. So, you know, I agree with you. I doubt that they make that decision. Maybe, I mean, maybe they wait and see how Caitlin is, but I would be a strong lean personally if I were the Indiana front office to tank and not don't rush Caitlin back. And the problem with tanking is their next three games are Chicago, Dallas, and Washington, who are all probably tanking.
Sure.
I mean, Angel Reese is out for Chicago, Page is out for Dallas, Washington's trading away their best players, and so it's going to be hard to lose. Uh, And their game after that is against Connecticut. And so, they could easily win their next four games even without Caitlin. I mean, that's their team is that talented. So it may be unrealistic to tank. So maybe the better question is, should they bring back Caitlin Clark for the rest of the season? What do you think?
I think that's tough. You don't want to push it, but it does sound like they're going to take a much slower approach to bringing her back. And I think has she come back two times already this year? I think they have brought her back when she hasn't had a lot of practice time. And sometimes with road trips, it's hard to get that practice time, but they have a home stretch coming up. So if they can have her practicing and feeling good, I think you still bring her back. Yeah. What do
Yeah,
you
I
think?
think I think they will. I would just say don't rush it. Looking at the
Yeah.
schedule, they got Chicago, Dallas, Washington, Connecticut, Minnesota, Minnesota. Like they're not beating Minnesota with Caitlin Clark. I mean, if they can go keep her out for those next four games against, I
Mhm.
mean, those are the four weakest teams in the league right now. And keep her out for those four games and see how she's doing. And I would think about resting her for those Minnesota games as well. And then reevaluate at that time. So leave her out for the next six games. I mean, just looking from a schedule perspective and what's realistic, if you win those four games, um, then maybe think about is Nafisa back yet? If not, could we steal a game against Minnesota at home? If Nafisa's not playing, maybe you think about bringing her back for that home game against
I mean, they
Minnesota.
beat her without they beat
Yeah, and the
Minnesota without
commissioner,
Clark for the
yeah,
Commissioner Cup game
they
already,
did.
so it's possible.
Yeah. I mean, it's possible, but that would be my thought process. I think if I were the front office, I'd say these next four games are against the four weakest teams in the league. We're not bringing Caitlin back for those games. Let's wait and see what happens with Minnesota. And, you know,
Yeah. And if and when they bring her back, I would like to see them be very judicious with her minutes. There's like almost no chance that they win this year. So there's no point in risking greater injury. It feels like New York or Minnesota would be impossible to beat, barring significant injury or something crazy happening.
yeah, yeah, I agree. All right. So on to the rest of the league. Kind of a segue from Indiana Fever injuries is injuries across the league. It seems to be the theme of the WNBA this year. Star players getting injured, other players, lots of players, just injuries, injuries, injuries. So the big one this past week was Nafisa.
Yeah, unfortunately, she went out, and it was in the third quarter of a game. They had a pretty big lead, so you understand why she's still in the game. But I think they had a 20 or 30 point lead, so it's kind of unfortunate that she was even in at that point. Um, but it sounds like it's just an ankle sprain, which is good, and they have her out for at least 2 weeks, and then they'll reevaluate. But yeah, it's unfortunate, especially as she is kind of the obvious MVP this season. So I hope that doesn't hurt her chances.
Yeah, I agree. And I mean, that was not just a normal game. That was like a historic road win blowout. I mean,
Yeah.
Minnesota crushed Las Vegas. And again, I mean, you could do a whole segment on what's wrong with Vegas this year. I mean, I don't know what's going on there. That's
Yeah.
just confusing to me. But that was just, they rolled over and played dead against Minnesota.
Yep.
So I don't know. I mean, I saw a lot of that game. I didn't see where Nafisa got hurt. I maybe just watched the first half, and it was just crazy.
Yeah.
Minnesota looked great, and they were clicking on all cylinders. And it's like Las Vegas was putting up no resistance. They were doing weird things. Did you watch any of that game?
Yeah, I did. I
They
watched
had
most of it.
they had like Gray guarding Nafisa quite often in the first half, and they had Asia up at the top of the key defensively. And I mean, I don't know. Yeah, I don't think it was a zone, but like Asia was not guarding Nafisa, and she seemed to be up at the top of the key a lot on defense. I mean, it was just I don't know what they were doing, but I mean,
I don't know.
Minnesota just mainly. I mean, Kayla McBride went on a historic shooting spree also in that first half.
Yeah, that was
She
crazy. Eight for
was,
eight from three.
yeah. So that was a heck of a game. Really unfortunate they got marred by Fee's injury. So
Yeah.
you know, right now, then we went to the Dallas game last night. Dallas against New York, and Paige was injured.
Yeah, that's unfortunate. It sounds like a back issue, so they're just being careful, I think. Hopefully it's nothing major, but for Dallas, yeah, there's no point in risking anything with Paige. You gotta just rest her, make sure she's 100%. But it was actually ended up being a fun game. New York is so good, even without Stewie, that we thought it was just going to be a blowout. And for whatever reason, New York couldn't put them away. After the first quarter, it felt like they should have been up like 20 points, and it was maybe 10 or something. And
Yeah.
yeah, yeah, it was fun.
Well, New York scored like 20 points in the first 4 minutes or something.
Hmm.
I mean, they were just shredding them with backdoor cuts, and I mean, they were getting layups and a couple of threes, I think. But I mean, they were just shredding the Dallas half court defense and making the game look easy. And it looks like, man, yeah, it looked like a blowout. But then all of a sudden, I don't know if Dallas made some good defensive adjustments, but yeah, it was ended up being a fun game. It looked like Dallas was giving, one of our IU uh, favorites, Grace Berger, a lot of minutes. So I don't know if they were. It felt like they were maybe just giving her a run to see do we keep her, on a
Yeah,
rest of the season
yeah.
contract. That's what it felt like.
Quinterly and James hardly played, it felt like, and
Yeah.
they were just letting Grace be in there and run things. And she did a pretty good job. You could see she seems to have lost some confidence, unfortunately, because she's such a good player. Really good mid-range game. Um, but yeah, she was impactful in the second half. She missed two big shots that would have cut
Oh
things
yeah.
to maybe one possession in the third quarter. But yeah, she was impactful, got a lot of rebounds, got some assists.
Yeah. She played well. She Yeah, missed a wide open layup in the half court. I mean, so New York had a defensive breakdown, and Grace made a great cut to the rim. And I don't know, it was Heinz Allen who found her. I forget who found her underneath. And I think she was just surprised to be so wide open. Sometimes that messes up your mind and your mechanics because you turn and you think there's going to be somebody there, and you turn to face the rim after you make the catch, and there's nobody. And I mean, I think sometimes it just messes up what you
Right.
do then when you're that wide open. You don't expect to be that wide open, and
Yeah.
so I think that's why she missed it. But Dallas was on a run at that point. I think it was like a one or two possession game. They gotten it to down to five. I think they got it to three at one point in
They
the
got it to
third
three at one
quarter.
point. I think that if she had made that layup, it would have cut it to three. But then
Again,
I
yeah.
think, yeah.
So yeah, just unfortunate, but we were cheering for her. It was a lot of fun um, to see. I mean, Dallas was competing and trying, but New
Yeah.
York was just too talented for them.
Yeah, New York is so good. And I don't even think anyone had a particularly great game for New York. It was just they're so long, so big at every position, and so talented.
Yeah.
Miesemann, Phoebish, Ionescu. Yeah, and we saw a lot of Paige jerseys or shirts in the crowd, which was fun. Not quite to the scale of Caitlin, but quite a few people wearing Paige shirts and jerseys, and saw some UNESCO ones as well.
Yeah, but clearly Paige is the most popular Dallas player right now and
Oh yeah,
one of the most popular players in the league. So unfortunately, we didn't get to see her play, but it was fun. And last week I think when we talked, we talked about Stewie and New York losing, but all the games so far. But now they have Miesemann, and they've won three straight games.
yeah,
So it's pretty nice to be able to plug in one of the best players in Europe
yeah.
in for one of the best players in the world when you have an injury to such a great player. So yeah, I mean, Miesemann was impactful.
Oh
She's
yeah.
just good. I mean, wow, I just a calming presence out there. Never looks rattled. She's a great
Hmm.
shooter, smart player, good footwork around the rim. I mean,
Yeah,
just
pretty good passer. Yeah.
yeah, I mean, just what a great pickup. I
Oh
wish
yeah.
Indiana or Minnesota could have gotten her, but New if they get fully healthy, I just don't know. It would take, some great shooting nights from Minnesota for them to beat um, New York. So yeah,
Yeah.
fun
Although
game.
I guess we'll talk about the trades in a little bit, but Minnesota did help bolster their depth a little bit this week as well.
Yeah, yeah, they did. So why don't we go ahead and segue into that? So yeah, one of the trades that happened was Minnesota traded Diamond Miller and ended up with Dejanay Carrington. And maybe there was something else. Was Samuelson in the
Samuelson was
trade?
packaged in just because her for the salary cap to fit,
Yeah.
because Samuelson is out for the season, and yeah, and then Dallas also got a 2027 pick as well. So Diamond is still on a rookie contract. So for Dallas, they get a young player who is under contract who they can keep for next year and a future pick. And for Minnesota, they're trying to win now. They got some added depth and a defensive presence and yeah, someone who can get buckets as well, especially in transition.
Yeah, I mean, Carrington's a much better defender than Diamond Miller. I was watching Miller quite a bit when she was out there in her minutes last night, and I told you at the game I thought she looked like a baby giraffe on skates sometimes. She just looks uncoordinated. I mean, she's not very smooth, especially on defense.
Yeah.
She looks awkward, doesn't have great footwork. I mean, she's a good athlete, and when she gets out in transition, she's confident and is going to attack the rim, but just defensively, Cheryl Reeve never trusted her, I think,
Yeah.
and so that she seems like she's got a high ceiling, but I think she has a pretty low floor too. And watching her play last night, not impressed, and I can
Right. The
understand
Wings
why
have
they
nothing
traded
to
her.
lose and taking a chance on her and
Yeah,
adding
from
to
the
the young
Wings,
core.
I think it was a good trade by both teams in this
Yeah.
case. Minnesota's in a win now situation, and Carrington's better than Miller right now. And
Yeah. And for
uh,
Dallas, it was looking likely that Carrington wasn't going to come back. She wasn't really happy. I think she had come to Dallas to hope to get a bigger role, but really her ceiling probably is being an impactful kind of sixth person off the bench. And she's excellent at that role, and that's what she can be in Minnesota. So I
yeah,
think
yeah,
it's
she's
good.
she's great. If she'll be happy with that role on a great team, yeah, she could be really impactful in that role. Then another big trade was Seattle seems to be going all in, which not 100% sure why.
Yeah.
They've got well, maybe they don't even have to worry about their own draft picks because they have everybody else's, but uh, made a trade for Brittany Sykes, who's had a really good season, and
Yeah.
gave up what Clark and who
Saya
else?
Cook.
Zaya Cook,
But
yeah.
then Washington had to waive her to make everything work on their end. But yeah, so the Mystics got Alicia Clark, who has been on the Mystics before, and then a Seattle's worst 26 pick, basically.
Okay.
Um, but Washington is going all in on their youth movement and just building a young core, which makes sense for them. I feel bad for Alicia Clark because I think she spent most of her career in Seattle and then spent a year or two in Washington, I think, and then Vegas most recently, but then went back, I think, hoping to retire in Seattle, but for whatever reason, just hasn't really had much of an impact there. So for Washington, it's good because they get some of that leadership and get some value for Sykes, who isn't guaranteed to be coming back next year.
Yeah, I do. I feel like Clark's the loser in the trade.
Yeah.
She went to a team expecting to be on a competitive team who's making a playoff push and hopefully maybe, deep playoff run potentially, and now going to a team that's clearly just building for the future, which is wise by Washington. I think that's the right decision by them. But I do. Clark's the real loser in this trade. I think
Yeah.
is a
And
good
Cook, I
trade.
guess.
And Cook, yeah, she got cut. But Washington is a good trade for Washington, good trade for Seattle, I think. I
Yeah.
think Sykes is better than Clark right now.
Yeah, for sure.
Um, and then the other trade, oh, our beloved Alicia Edwards got traded and not to
Aaliyah
Weaver.
Edwards.
Aaliyah, yeah. Aaliyah
I'm
got
thinking
traded.
Alicia Clark.
Yeah, got
Yeah,
my
DC was involved in a couple trades.
yeah, got
Yeah, I'm a
my
little bit surprised by this one. I know there was some rumors that it might be happening, but she's so good. But for whatever reason, there's new management, new coach, and they've decided that Kiki Iriafen is who they trust and who they're going with. So, and then they have Shakira Austin and Stephanie Dolson as well. But if I were them, I would have tried to move Dolson over Edwards personally, just because Edwards is still on her rookie contract. But yeah, they send poor Edwards to the Sun
mm,
and get JC, which I don't really know how JC fits in, but um, we'll see.
yeah. So is Connecticut going to become likable now? They get rid
Oof,
of
we'll
JC
see.
and add Aaliyah.
They do have a lot of UConn players now, with Tina Charles and Aaliyah and Nelson Adota and Bria Hartley. So
Yeah, maybe that's an on purpose. Maybe that's why they wanted to get Aaliyah. And there, I mean, there's rumors about the sale of the Connecticut Sun to a minority owner of the Boston Celtics and him wanting to move. to Boston. Was that finalized, the sale?
It's confusing. It sounds like they made an agreement and want like it's kind of a done deal, but you can't actually do it without the WNBA's approval. And they are not super incentivized to approve a sale when they're making $250 million on expansion teams.
Yeah.
So we'll see. But they should do it for sure. Um, the ownership in Connecticut has not been great. It's not a good facility. And it's just not keeping up with what the rest of the teams are doing in the league. And yeah, they need an upgrade.
Yeah, I agree. Time for it would be a good trade. I think one article I read said part of the hesitation might be that they would like to have an expansion team in Boston in the future.
Right.
Potential Boston had been a potential site for an expansion team, and they weren't successful in this last round. But yeah, I mean, if so, it's just a money grab by the owners. They do that. They should let the Connecticut Sun move. I mean,
Yeah.
it doesn't seem to be a market that's supporting pro basketball. Great market for college basketball. They support their UConn women, UConn men's team really well there. But yeah, the Sun haven't ever been a huge draw, it seems. I mean, when they were great, they were playing in a small facility, I think, not drawing tens of thousands of fans a
Right.
year. So let them move to Boston. I think you mentioned they've often, played a couple games a year in Boston and have had good turnouts to those games when they go to Boston. So yeah, seems like it'd be a good move for the team, and hopefully the WNBA, however that works, the board of governors or all the the owner, the all owners. I don't know. The WNBA structure of ownership is confusing, so I don't know
Yeah.
who actually ends up approving something like this, but hopefully it'll be approved and the Sun will be moved. But
Yeah.
one thing we also talked about, just the last thing maybe in news and notes, is the valuation of franchises in the WNBA has skyrocketed thanks to Caitlin Clark, I think. So what was Las Vegas, how many years ago? Sold for $2 million? dollars?
Yeah, I don't know how it was maybe what, 5 or 6 years ago at this
They
point?
were
Or
in San
maybe
Antonio at
more
that
like
time.
7 now at this point. Basically, whenever I think right around when Asia came into the league in 2018. So yeah, it was bought for $2 million in 2018, and now the expansion teams are paying $250 million for a team.
And the Connecticut Sun, clearly not one of the most valuable
No,
franchises
like the
in,
worst.
yeah, sold for 350 million.
Yeah,
So think what would the Las Vegas Aces valuation be right now? It'd have to be
yeah,
500 million or something.
yeah,
And so think about that owner who invested $2 million ish years ago, now has a asset that's worth $500 million. I
yeah.
mean, crazy. And he should buy some gifts for Caitlin Clark. I think this is clearly 2 years ago, even this valuation would not have been. I mean,
Sure, I mean, it went up
it
significantly.
went
Even a
up.
couple years ago, the Valkyries, I think, was a $50 million expansion fee. So that has gone up 5 times in the last couple years.
Yeah. So, I mean, the valuation had gone up, but this is crazy what's going on now. So, we debated if we are going to talk about this topic or not. I don't want to give it a lot of time, but what were they thinking segment? The sex toys being thrown out on the court. Just, I don't even want to. A group has come out and
Yeah.
claimed, that they're behind it. I don't even want to say anything about that group to give them any,
Yeah.
publicity,
I don't
but
understand the
what are they
purpose or
thinking?
what they're trying to accomplish, but just in general, throwing things on the floor is crazy and not safe. And they should, honestly, anyone who throws something on the floor should be banned for life. I think they said at least 1 year, but that's not enough. If like that, you could hurt a player. You could end a player's career throwing something on the floor.
Yeah, it's terrible. And, I hope it ends soon and
Yeah.
just not a good look by those
We did.
knuckleheads.
We noticed at the Dallas game last night, there were like at least 12 security guards on the floor at all the
Yeah.
timeouts and stuff. So Dallas had it locked down, making sure nothing happened.
Yeah. So thankfully nothing happened and hopefully nothing will. But yeah, that's
Yeah.
just a bunch of knuckleheads.
Yeah.
So
But it's a tough thing because as the WNBA grows, you get more of the crazies, and it's unfortunate, but it is like a reality of professional sports. People get booed, crazies come in. So it's kind of an unfortunate thing but it does feel like the WNBA is doing a little bit better. We started going to Dallas games a few years ago when we moved to the area, and like just the parking was horrible. There was no traffic control when you tried to leave after the game. But last night there were people, monitoring the traffic and stopping and letting pedestrians go or stopping pedestrians, and you can see that things are improving as the popularity increases.
Yeah. I will say shout out to the Indiana Fever. After going to the Indiana Fever game and comparing that to the Dallas game, still, it's a
Oh yeah,
much better atmosphere. Just the way this, I mean, it's a bigger facility. They're playing at a
yeah.
much nicer, Gainbridge Fieldhouse is much nicer than College Park Center. But just we looked at some souvenirs. We were thinking about getting a Paige Becker's shirt ourselves and see what they had. And oh, it's just a tiny little space in the concourse that was
Hmm.
roped off. Whereas, for the Indiana Fever game, they had this huge two-level store of souvenirs with Fever and Pacers gear,
Yeah.
just
And it was a
well
long line, but
organized.
it was moving. It was
Yeah,
pretty
super well
fast.
organized. I mean, we saw the line and at first we were like, oh no, we're not going to be able to shop for anything. It's just, but then we're like, oh my, it's moving so quickly. It's not a problem at all to hop in this line
Right.
of 50 people. I mean,
Yeah.
there's a line of 50 people in a queue outside the store, but it was just so, I mean, it's just hats off to Indiana. I'm not trying to denigrate Dallas, but just saying
Right.
it was so much better an experience at the Indiana Fever game
Oh yeah,
overall,
for
and
sure.
it's like I mean we touched on this, Indianapolis just has a long history of hosting sporting events from the Indy 500 to NCAA tournaments. You know, it's just, you know, the Wings right now play at the University of Texas Arlington. It's just
Right.
not the same level of professionalism
Yeah.
as
And I think they are going to move to Dallas. They'll have a better facility, but I think it's gotten pushed back 1 year. But I think so they maybe have one more year at UTA, and then hopefully we'll be in Dallas in 27, I think.
yeah. So yeah, but it's improved. We'll say that for the Dallas
Yeah.
Wings. It's much better than it was a few years ago. So tip of the hat to them as well for that. All right, so back to the Fever. Um, Mentioned it briefly earlier. Next, they've got a game tonight, right? Yeah,
Against
so
Chicago.
against
And
Chicago.
that's if we're talking what were they thinking, the WNBA rules, some of them are so crazy.
Oh,
So
this is a good one.
they're down to 9 players with Caitlin out and Colson and McDonald. And so they only have 9 players available. They know this. Colson and McDonald have been ruled out for the whole season, and Caitlin hasn't been approved to come back yet. But they can't sign a hardship contract until a player has missed a game. So you have to play the game with not enough players in order to sign a relief player.
Makes no sense whatsoever. That's a good one. That's a what were you thinking for sure. And I think, as we talked about it, um, one thing I suggested that the WNBA change in case, the league office is listening to our podcast,
Mhm.
um, that if somebody's ruled out for the rest of the season, that you make an exception to that rule.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously, if you've got Caitlin Clark, where we don't know it's day to day. If you got a Paige Becker's or her back, we don't know it's day to day. It's like, okay, maybe you have to kind of prove it, make him have a game short of a player before you get to replace somebody injured in that situation. But if somebody is officially ruled out for the rest of the season, we're not allowed to bring this player back. Why can't you just immediately replace that player? It makes no sense at
Mhm.
all. Terrible rule.
Yeah.
Needs to be changed or at least modified so that a rest of the season injury can be replaced immediately.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Indiana's down to what? Kelsey is like their only real guard left.
Yeah.
Lexi and Sophie can play the guard position kind of, but they really don't have any guards.
Yeah. It's a mess and the league needs to address it. All right. So tonight they'll be playing Kelsey Mitchell a lot of minutes, I guess, because they don't have
Yeah.
any other guards. So hopefully she doesn't get hurt because that's been the theme of the year's injuries in the WNBA. But four very winnable games. I mean, right now they're 17 and 14, tied for fifth, but effectively fifth because of the tiebreaker. Um,
Hmm.
if they win four games, they'll be 21 and 14, guaranteed an over 500 record. Um, And I mean,
21,
oh
it's
no, they're 44
44.
games this year.
Yeah,
Yeah, that's
but
right.
it would be pretty tough to lose out the rest of
Yeah,
the
that's so
season.
yeah, man. They keep changing the schedule. I mean, I think that they need to
Yeah, they
reconsider.
changed it too quick, and you've heard players talk about it this year
Yeah.
that they've increased the number of games, which and a lot of players have said, yeah, if we want to make more money, that'll come with more games and that kind of stuff, and being realistic about it, but saying the increased games hasn't come with increased time, it hasn't come with increased resources for recovery. So if they're gonna make them play more games in a more condensed schedule, um, then it should come with more resources or more time. And
Hmm.
people compare it to the NBA because I think the NBA technically plays more games like has fewer days, or it's close to what the WNBA is, but it's a little bit shorter of a turnaround on average for the NBA. But the NBA, they have such a long season. They have guys resting all the time. There's not really an expectation that NBA players play every game. And like so much so
Right.
that they've had to make rules in the NBA that you can't win an award if you miss more than like a quarter of the games because
Right.
it's been so common for the stars just to sit out so many games. So you can't compare. It's kind of apples to oranges there.
Yeah, you can't compare it all. So yeah, the WNBA needs to pump the brakes a little bit on expanding teams, expanding the schedule. They just need what we've said multiple times. They've got an historically great opportunity to grow the league, and they need to be really wise. And this increasing the games the way they have, I can't even keep track of it, evidently.
Yeah.
It's not wise. So yeah,
And
so not
like
guaranteed.
40 games is kind of nice. Like I don't,
It's a
the
nice round
NBA is too
number.
much. How can you watch 80 games? It's too much. Smaller league and fewer games is a nice thing. You don't have to
Yeah.
try to be the NBA.
40 games was a good number, but records aren't going to mean anything anymore because Trossey's record is going to be broken because,
Yeah.
everybody they're going to be playing ridiculously more games than Trossey played per season. And yeah, it just they need to slow down and take this wisely. So, but Chicago, Dallas, Washington in the next week, all home games, all very winnable. Then a week from Sunday, Connecticut on the roads, also a winnable game. So could easily be looking at 21 and 14, even without Caitlin, Airy, and Sydney
Yeah.
Colson. So,
Yeah. Who
yeah.
who would you like to see them sign on a hardship contract?
Well, I was looking that up. I have to look at the names that were available. Where did I put? I
I
had,
know Zaya Cook obviously is one we talked about who just got cut. Good player, good college career at South Carolina. She's not a point guard, but she has pretty good handles and is obviously a great three-point shooter. Maybe one of South Carolina's best ever. So she'd be an interesting one. And then you have the Aaliyah Boston, South Carolina connection there.
yeah, I like the idea of Zaya. If Paige or Grace doesn't make it with Dallas, we love Grace. I don't think she's a true point guard, though.
No.
Watching her last night, you just watch JJ Quinterly, even though she's tiny, she just looks like a point guard, plays like a point. Grace just wasn't and isn't a point guard. And so that would be the only thing about if you sign Zaya, I wouldn't sign Grace. I'd rather sign Mariah Jefferson, I think, if you're going to sign Zaya Cook. Get a true point guard in there who can take some of really has the mentality of a point guard, can handle the ball, handle pressuring the other team's point guard, um, get the offense. There were just some times last night where Grace was the point guard and it looked like Dallas was struggling to get their offense initiated. You could see during timeouts as they were walking back to the huddle a couple of times where players were talking to Grace. And you know, so personally, I don't know between Maya and Grace, we prefer Grace as being IU fans. So I guess if push comes to shove, just from a sentimental point of view, I'd like him to get Grace. Then I would get Mariah Jefferson to get a true point guard in there.
I don't think that they can get two players. I think the rules are such that you can only sign if you're under 10. Like, and I think Colson and Airy count against you as players the rest of the season, even though they're injured and out for the season.
Oh,
I think you can only
wow.
get one, and I don't even know if you can keep them when Caitlin comes back.
Oh my goodness. But then they
That's how
need to
I
cut Bree Turner and sign two guards.
probably, yeah.
they need guard depth right
Yeah.
now, and they've got Turner's not playing minutes, so they probably need to cut Turner and sign two guards if that's the case. And I would get, my heart tells me get Grace and get Mariah Jefferson, but you need a true point guard. Well, Caitlin's that, and even you need a
Even when she's
true
back. Yeah.
backup point guard, and
Yeah.
Grace just isn't that. I mean, I watched her last night. She's trying to play point guard, but she's a mid-range shooter. She's spectacular at that, but yeah, she's not a point guard that's going to lead a team's offense well. So yeah, I would guess. Look, I don't know if Odyssey Sims, Shea Petty. I don't know that. I know Mariah Jefferson, and I would get her based on what I know. Maybe that's not the best choice, but
Yeah.
she
She's
seems
had
like
some
the
injury
logical.
issues, but
Well, welcome to the club. That's the WNBA this year.
yeah.
So yeah. All right. Well, anything else from the upcoming week or?
I would just be interested. I feel like Timpson's minutes were down quite a bit this week. I think she had at least one no play, and then maybe had like 4 minutes in another game. So I guess with so few players, I assume she'll get more minutes. But um, yeah, that's Timpson's kind of a fun piece for this year, just seeing her develop and hoping that she'll be able to be like that four player in the future for them.
Yep. Well, it's been a tough week and hate to see all these injuries across the league. That Colson, McDonald, Collier, Beckers, Stewie's still out. I mean, just Angel Reese is still out. I mean, just injury after injury after injury. And so hopefully, you know, get some better health and less injuries and just have a good rest of the season. All right. Well, I think that's it for the W Hoops podcast today. Everyone, please be sure to subscribe and leave a comment or a review, and we'll see you next week.